Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, fellow citizens. Thank you very much again for watching me here. I am doing a Facebook Live. This is very rare for me to come on here and do a Facebook Live. And usually I don't like Facebook likes. I go on the radio and speak behind the mic. But once in a while, it is necessary for us to go live, especially when issues come up. I have a very serious issue that I surfaced in the last couple of days, and I wanted to speak on it. And I hope that all our citizens would be really engaged and speak on the matter. And the issue is, most of you must have seen it. Yesterday, a letter was leaked from the Gambia Ports Authority. Again, a letter that was written from the Gambia Ports Authority was leaked to the social media and also to the media regarding funds transferred to on a particular project to build a police station at the president's village. The letter I have here, most of you or many of you may have already seen the letter on social media. We are still on the process of verifying the letter, but it looks like to me the letter is very, very authentic. And I wanted to speak on the letter. I wanted to raise, some serious concerns that I have about this. And I hope that, all concerned Gambians, all concerned citizens of the Gambia will raise their voices and would speak on the concerns, on what is happening to our country right now. And just 2.5 years ago, almost 3 years ago, we came from a very, very consequential situation. We came from a situation where our nation was on the verge of collapse, when our nation was on the verge of civil war, where our nation was on the verge of disintegrating. And we had the audacity, we had the courage. Our political leaders had the courage to come together and put all their differences aside, put everything on the side, everything that they've worked for years, 30 years, 35 years, some of them for their lifetime. Put all our differences aside, our political differences, our ethnic differences, our religious differences, and we came together to remove a government that was taking advantage of our people. Remove a government that was abusing our people, that was abusing our resources, that was leading our country into disaster. 2.5 years later, we found ourselves in a different quagmire. I have a letter here, and perhaps most of you have seen the letter. It is leaked from, somebody leaked it out yesterday, obviously. And we want to thank the individual who leaked out this. This is what we call citizen activism. This is what we expect of our citizens. Every single one of us has a responsibility to be a watchdog on our government and on ourselves. We must hold ourselves accountable, hold our elected officials accountable, hold our public officials accountable, and hold our private sector and the business accountable in our country. It is our moral duty. It is our moral responsibility as a nation and as citizens to stand up and speak up on matters. And I do not want to wait until when it's too late again, until we create a situation where we can no longer see each other from eye to eye, until we start branding each other as enemies, when actually we're all citizens of the Gambia and we all love the Gambia. So I see it fitting to come out here and speak on what I see as a very, very dangerous trending situation that we must speak on now. We must speak on now. We must engage the relevant parties, and we must engage citizens that are responsible to act responsibly and to do what they're supposed to do. And this letter that I'm reading, as I mentioned, for those of you who are just tuning in, is a letter from the Gambia Ports Authority to Trust Bank, ordering a payment of $745 million, $745,000 to build a police station at President Barrow's village. What is it for? To build a police station at Mankamankunda. Now, let me be clear. Do we know if President Barrow ordered this project or not? No, we don't know. Do we suspect that he may have a hand in it? We cannot say for certain. But what we know from fresh wounds and from running from our history, our recent history, is that corruption was endemic in the Gambia. Even if people knew they were going to jail or they were going to get killed by Yaya Jammeh, they were still engaged in corruption. They were still engaged in stealing. They were still engaged in projects that never benefits, the average Gambian. That's the human being for you. That's our citizen for you. Yaya Jammeh threatened Gambians to put them 6 feet deep. He threatened to jail them or even chop off their heads when they were caught up in corruption. But the human being is more difficult to manage than the animal. You cannot tell people, do as I say and not as I do. So when Jammeh was doing his corruption and he was sending soldiers to the central bank to collect millions of dollars, and those in the central bank were seeing that. Those in the state house were seeing that. Those who are manning different organizations were seeing that. What did they do? They followed the same process. So it became, everybody was involved pretty much in the Gambia. Jammeh couldn't do anything to stop the Gambian people, stop anybody, because he couldn't stop himself from looting resources. So therefore, everybody become a part of it. And ladies and gentlemen, the Jammeh Commission just concluded. These are the kind of letters that we see in the Jammeh Commission. Letters that Jammeh was ordering, letters that were going to Social Security, letters that were going to Gambia Ports Authority, letters that were going to Gateway, letters that were going to Gamtel, letters that were going to different institutions ordering them to pay certain amounts of money. That's what we fought against. We saw before the Jammeh Commission people coming out testifying that they were ordered. They were ordered to go and withdraw money or to go and pay. 2 years later, 2.5 years later, what we're seeing is the same situation repeating itself. And I happen to believe that we have a bigger problem, Gambia. And I'm not accusing the president of being behind this project. But I can tell you that Gambian citizens who are entrusted with responsibility to lead institutions, private institutions, public institutions, have a moral duty to ensure that when a letter like this gets to their desk, they do not act on it. They do not act on it. They have to do the right thing. The National Assembly must approve any other spendings to spend outside of the budget, to spend on things like that, especially funds from public corporations. Guys, for 2.5 years that Yaya Jammeh has been out of Gambia. He used to go deep into Social Security coffers. He used to go after Gamtel. He used to go to the Ports Authority, and he takes all that money because his international funding was dried up. And he would take that money, he would spend it on projects or spend it on whatever he wants. He would transfer it to overseas. Where is that money? Yaya Jammeh has been out of Gambia for almost 3 years. Where is all the profit that is coming from ports? Where is all the profit that is coming from Social Security? Where is the Gateway project profits? Where is all that money? This is what is happening in the Gambia. This is what is happening in the Gambia. And we must speak on this at the earliest possible time. We can no longer afford to wait until when our institutions are destroyed, our coffers are looted, and then we come out here and go after each other's neck. We can no longer afford that. We, as citizens, have a moral duty. We have a responsibility to ensure that we act at the best interest of the country. Wherever you are appointed, whatever responsibility you have a moral duty as a citizen to ensure that things are done right. There is so much wrong in citizens who are manning the Ports Authority or manning Gamtel or manning Social Security, authorizing their own projects for this amount of money to be spent on a police station at where? The president's village. I have a question for Mr. President. And again, I want to be very clear. We are not 100% sure whether the president is aware of this. But I can tell you if a letter like this comes to you as a managing director of an institution, you must inform your board. You must consult with the Ministry of Finance. You must consult with your team before you start acting on this. What law authorizes you to allow almost $750,000 to be spent on a project at the president's village? And my question to you, Mr. President, and those of you who are supporting the president, what is the difference between Yahya Jammeh taking $85 million and building a project in Kanilai, and President Barrow being aware or authorizing a project being built in his village? What is the difference? I mean, for goodness sake, even the Janneh Commission report is on the president's desk. He has not even acted on it yet. He hasn't even acted on it yet. We're seeing institutions peddling money towards the president's interest. And I have a different theory. And we can all sit down and blame the president for this. But I believe that we have a bigger problem than the president. I believe that. I happen to believe that, the managing director of the Ports Authority, if this letter is authentic, the managing director of the Ports Authority and the director of finance may be preserving their own positions, their own roles, enticing the president and approving a project to build a police station at the president's village. There is nothing wrong in building a police station across the Gambia if it's needed. But for goodness sake, go to Burusibi police station. They don't even have computers. They don't have computers. And they still record all their cases in a big, giant encyclopedia. This much. Cases that were recorded 2 years ago, you can hardly find them in that big book. And what are we doing? Our funds, our public funds, are been funneled towards enticing a leader. Mr. President, if you are not aware of this, you ought to wake up and be aware of this. If you authorize this, then you are taking the Gambian people for a ride. You're taking us for a ride. And you are inviting us as Gambians to revolt against your leadership. And again, I want to give the benefit of the doubt. But the Gambian people, we need to speak up. And I posted on Facebook this morning. And I said that the police, if the police gets this letter, they must arrest, they must investigate, and they must prosecute the managing director of the Ports Authority and the director of finance. The managing director that signs this letter is Usman M. Jobate. And the finance director is Tamsir Salah. These are our brothers that we're paying. These are people who are entrusted with our public institutions. And what are they doing? They're funneling public funds towards enticing a leader so they can keep their positions. And worst case, they are even going to get a bigger cut. This is what they do. This is what corruption looks like. This is what we need to fight against Gambia. And it is high time. It's high time we get together again and tell our leaders and tell our citizens that each and every one of us has a moral responsibility to act in the best interest of our country. Each and every one of us has a responsibility to act in the best interest of the country. Our country, our farmers are crying for a bad rainy season. It's almost August. Rain stops in end of September, a month and a half. Our farmers are crying about poor harvest. And what are we seeing? We're seeing money being funneled towards the president's office or towards the president. And we have citizens like us, we have our friends and our brothers and our sisters sitting down and thinking that we hate the president. Why should we? You know what I'm challenging us today as citizens? Each and every one of us has a responsibility. I keep mentioning this all the time. To be patriotic. To quote one of my good friends, it's not supporting your political party. It's not obeying orders. It's not supporting your government. It's supporting the best interest of your country. And ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to speak up. We do not want to get into the same fight, the same nasty fight that we have seen in the Gambia, that the wounds are so fresh in our minds and our faces. We even haven't healed. We haven't even started healing. We're seeing corruption epidemics in the Gambia already taking place. And you know, I have a challenge for the opposition. The opposition should not wait until when there is elections to go and talk about issues. I would challenge the opposition right now, with good oppositions right now. You should be doing a joint press conference or calling a press conference and speaking on an issue like this. On an issue like this. You call on the president to investigate, the police to investigate this. You call on the managing director of Ports Authority to come out and explain what this situation is, to distance themselves from this. If they have ordered this, absolutely, they must resign. The opposition must not wait for the president to call on to fire somebody. The opposition must ask these leaders to resign, because they lack what it takes to be the custodians of taxpayers' resources. So I urge the opposition right now, a strong opposition right now, would be calling a press conference and asking authenticity of this letter, investigating it, calling on the Ports Authority director to resign or to explain this situation. The police should be investigating this situation. Our civil society should be getting up and making sure that this is something that is nipped in the bud. Because guys, this is how it started with Yaya Jammeh. This is how everything started. Until in the end, they feel like those of us on the other side were enemies. No matter what they do, we would hate them. No matter what they do, we would challenge them. You've seen the letter that was leaked also. And you know, I mean, Mr. Barrow and this government must be aware. You must be aware that you are living in a different generation. You're living in a different times. Everything that you are engaged in is going to be leaked. The Faduba Barrow Foundation, the $33 million, that was leaked by a citizen. This letter is leaked by a citizen. The letter that President Barrow sent 18 people to Dakar for a funeral was leaked by citizens. So we commend these citizens for acting in the best interest of the country. I saw a letter that was also leaked from State House, from the National Security Conference, National Security Council, that was discussing about the diaspora. Mr. President, diaspora is not your problem. The diaspora is not your problem. This is what we are fighting against. This is what we have a problem with. You want to address the diaspora? You want to engage the diaspora? This is what we want you to stamp on. This is what we want you to fight. And yesterday I posted, I said, does our country has a leader right now? Who is the face of our country right now? Who is the leader that leads our country right now? When crisis occurred in the Gambia and citizens were killed, there was demonstration and citizens were killed, nobody heard from the president. Not a single person heard from the president. The Tobaski came and went. Not anybody heard from the president. Anytime that we hear from the president, it's when he convened a rally or welcoming people to visit him at the State House. And when we speak on it, you think we hate you, or you think we are jealous of you. Why should we be jealous of you? We elected you. We put you in office. We put our hard-earned resources to you getting into office. We sacrifice our lives. We as Gambians. When I say we, I mean Gambians. Every one of you contributed in one way or the other to make sure that there was change in government. And now what are we seeing? The president shying away from facing the public and speaking on crises that are engulfing the nation? And they're coming up with a national security policy to engage the diaspora. Engage us on what? What are you going to engage us on? Yes, we are loud. We are Gambians and we've seen what was there. We've seen what is there and we are projecting what is coming up. This is why we're speaking out. This is why we take rare opportunities to come onto the media and to speak on behalf of issues that are happening in the Gambia. Again, for those of you who are tuning up, I'm speaking on a letter that was leaked from the Gambia Ports Authority to Trust Bank. ordering that a police station worth $745,000 be built at Mankamankunda. Come on. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, seriously. Everything that we complain about Yaya Jammeh, about Kanilai, about personalizing stuff, it's happening right before our eyes. It's happening before our eyes. What is going on? What is going on? I mean, again, as I mentioned, the government has borrowed so much money from the time they changed to now, we cannot even quantify how much money they borrowed. And you know, the National Assembly, how much are you guys, why are you getting paid? What are you getting paid for? What is your responsibility? Accepting plots of land? Accepting vehicles from the president? Not holding the president accountable? We have a majority leader. We have a speaker. We have a caucus, an opposition caucus. That is in the National Assembly. And seriously, you cannot take up this gross misappropriation of our resources. And you expect us to respect you, to pay you, to pamper you, to promote you, and upon that, respect you on it. What is the matter? I mean, look at Gambia, what is happening in the Gambia, ladies and gentlemen. We are crying for the rain. We're relying on the natural rain for our feeding. What if the rain didn't come? What if it didn't rain this year or next year or year after? God has given us the talent. God has given us the resources. God has given us the means and the tools to be able to exploit the natural resources that He has given us to make a living. We have water flowing underneath our feet. Everywhere in the Gambia. You can get fresh water. And we cannot use that to lift the life of our people. The elites continue to live a lavish life. They continue to pamper themselves and promote themselves. And saying, yeah, you are successful. Yes, you are this, you are that. The next door person, even in your own home, you're breathing dust like crazy. It is an embarrassment to drive through Serekunda, to drive across the Gambia. I mean, I mentioned this the last time I visited Gambia in 2017. How can a people so conscious of their own well-being? How can human beings so conscious of themselves, their well-being, live in such a situation? You're in Gambia, you don't even know who is in charge. You don't know who is in charge. It is just, it is so sad. But it is our responsibility as citizens. And this is beyond politics. This is beyond partisan divide. This is beyond ethnic. Because at the end of the day, we all go to the same market. At the end of the day, we all breathe the same air. At the end of the day, we all go to the same dilapidated hospitals. So why does it matter? Whether it's Foni or it's Jara or it's Farafenye or it's Pakaliba or wherever. Why does it matter? We need leaders who are going to see our country. The situation, the potentials of our country. That are going to stand up to make sure that we get what we want. We protect the dignity and the security of our people. But anytime politicians, I mean, President Barrow, I mean, I pray for him. I pray for him. But I can tell you the buck stops with you. Yes, the buck stops with every other citizen. But you are the one who is entrusted to lead a nation. You were entrusted to lead a transition government. It is therefore your responsibility. Nobody would have given you a dime 3, 4, 5 years ago. Nobody would have thought about building a hospital or a clinic or a police station in your village. Nobody. And they're coming to the State House and you're praising yourself. Yeah, these people loved me. Guess what? When Jammeh was there, they did the same thing. So it's not about you. It's about the office that you occupy. It is time you start appointing people that are going to look at you in the face and tell you the truth, Mr. President. You have people around you that surrounds you that they are not tell you the facts. They dare not tell you the facts because they think they are going to lose their positions. You need to take people who are independent-minded, people who are going to tell you for who you are. They are all surrounding you right now because of the access that you have. It's not your fame. It's not your knowledge. It's not your dua or whatever nyan. It's because of what you have, because of the access that you have, because of the presidency. And Gambia, it's time we stand, it's time we get involved. I challenge you. Wherever you are, I challenge you. Look out for the best interest of the Gambia. Yes, we can always look after our families. We can always look after ourselves. But at the end of the day, the country is bigger than us as individuals. It's bigger than us as individual families as well. But we strive on individual success. Collectively, we always, anything that we join together, it's a failure. Look at our public institutions. Look at our police stations. Look at our farmers. Look at our women. Look at our children. Governing it's not theoretical. It's not about occupying the state house, appointing people, and then running institutions. These are practical matters. You look at what affects your people. You look at what are the daily bread and butter of your people that you are supposed to do. When was the last time we had a natural disaster in the Gambia? When? So that tells me that if you build institutions, if you build roads, those things are very likely to last. And building roads is not development. Ensuring that public utilities, ensuring that public funds are put into good use, that is a good trait of a leadership. So I just wanted to come in here today and speak on this letter, and I expect Gambians to raise alarm. If you want something to protest about, this is what is worth protesting. The president or an institution, a government department ordering the building of a police station at the president's village. For what? Go to Brikama police station and see what they need. Go to Banjul. How much money does the Ports Authority contribute to rebuilding Banjul? How much money, how long would this money go to help the mayors in Banjul, in rebuilding Banjul? How long? How far can this go? What roads did Ports Authority sponsor in the Gambia? Have you used the ferry? You've used the toilets in the ferry? How many toilets would $1 million bill at the ports? Gambia, I mean, this is becoming really, really, really very, very sad and very, very serious. Well, we cannot continue to cry about it. We cannot continue to cry and say we cannot do anything about it or blame one party over another. In fact, I'm so much afraid that the next government would act exactly the same way. History has shown that, our mentality of governing, our mentality of being in government is pretty much the same pattern. We had the PPP for 30 years. We had Jammeh came in for 22 years. What is the difference in terms of the quality of life of our people? This government can dig a borehole in every village in the Gambia. And they can have gardens in every village in the Gambia. But do we have the citizens? Ask yourself as a citizen, you're appointed into a public office. You get paid every single day. Your family is taken care of. And yet, you don't have what it takes to ensure that public resources are spent the right way. How can you justify that? How can you justify that? This government has a terrible way of communicating. And I didn't even want to go to speak about the TRRC and the junglers being released. This is a difficult time for me personally. So I've been away a little bit. But my country takes precedence over anything else that I do. It's God and my country. God and my country. Everything else fit into that. Batambedu was giving us an excuse that you cannot continue to detain these junglers. That they've come up with a framework that is in the best interest of victims. It's been 3 years. If the victims' situation was a priority for this government and for Batembedu for others, they would have done something by now. The Truth and Reconciliation is a political process. There is no if or buts about that. It is a political process. It is designed to deliver what some political leaders want. It is designed, yes, to bring in the truth, but also towards reconciliation more than justice. You talk about transitional justice. What happened to justice? What happened to the prosecutorial power, the might of the state to investigate and to use witnesses against each other? I'm not a lawyer. I don't have a law background. But how many times do you see prosecutors use witnesses against witnesses? You can divide. You can separate these junglers and have them testify against each other. And every single one of them is going to come out. If you fail to come out and testify, we will use the might of the law to go after you. What happens to that? In what generation or in what society do you appeal to serial killers to come out and confess? It's a political ploy. There's no excuse about that. Batambedu indicated that yes, he has consulted the victims, but what he didn't tell you is that he never factored in the opinion of the victims. It is one thing to consult them. It's another thing to hear what their concerns are. And Batambedu would be responsible. If any of these junglers were to escape in the Gambia, he should be held responsible. And we editorialized this way back. We asked if Batambedu was up to the task of being an attorney general. You still see it. He's more like he's regretted taking this position. It's like, oh wow. I didn't know this was this difficult. Incredible. Incredible. It can never be justified for those junglers to be released. Never. And this is when Gambians want to protest, the December, Jodna and all that. That's all politics. This is what's real. And releasing those junglers is what's real. And again, I challenge all of you as citizens to really take our country very, very seriously. To take what is happening in our country seriously. Because we're beginning to see exactly what Jammeh was doing, what was happening during Jammeh's time. We're beginning to see people doing that. And I challenge all of you out to put out photos of the managing director of the Ports Authority. Call on the managing director of the Ports Authority to resign if they have authorized this. If they have authorized this spending, we call on him to resign because he's not fit for public office. We call on the finance director to resign as well. If President Barrow is not aware of this, which I doubt very much, then he has the responsibility to fire those people. If he didn't fire them, we have the National Assembly to act and to make sure that these funds are not spent there. If $745,000 is spent on a bogus police station being built in a village, a bogus police station being built in there, If that gets away, if they get away with it, guess what's going to happen next? Next thing, you're going to see millions of dollars being withdrawn from the central bank. The China Commission, I'm just repeating myself right now. We went through this. The China Commission has not even been acted on. People who just sign off to anything that they were told to do. We have a cross-section of our citizens who are corrupt to the bone. They're corrupt to the bone. All they care about is themselves and their families. I wonder even if they care about their families. Because if you deeply care about your family, then you must care about my family. You must care about the next door's family and the next person and the next person. This is beyond anything that we've ever seen. And we must act on it now. So I challenge all of you. My conclusion, and I apologize because I often don't do this. I don't like Facebook Lives. But I wanted to come in and discuss about, a potential corruption looming in the Gambia. It's happening again. We challenge the National Assembly to look into this situation right now. We challenge the opposition to start calling for a press conference and calling for the managing director of Social Security, not Social Security, I mean the Gambia Ports Authority, to resign forthwith. This is the responsibility of oppositions to come in and highlight these things. If you cannot stand up and champion these things now, why should we trust you when you come into office? Why should we believe that you're going to do anything different? We shouldn't. The National Assembly, the police must investigate. This managing director of Gambia Ports Authority, this finance director, what are their names again? Usman M. Jobate, Tamsid Salah. Those are the two. The director of finance is Tamsid Salah. I used to work at Civil Aviation. And I worked until late hours, wee hours of the evenings. And I saw the collaboration between the director and the director of finance. I saw the collaboration. I was an admin. I saw the collaboration. And I saw some of the things that were being approved. There is always a network. And when they're able to entice the president, then the next time they come back, they're going to have a huge cut. The major tender board, have they approved a project, a public project to build a police station in Mankamankunda? Were there any tenders? Were there any bidding? The Office of the Ombudsman. Gambia, it's time we look at these things in a holistic way. Beyond the politics, beyond the ethnicity, beyond anything else. We look at this as a nation. We look at this as our responsibility to ensure that we address this situation. I appreciate you watching, and I hope that every one of us would take up this responsibility to ensure that we challenge the president. We challenge our fellow brothers and sisters who are supporting on the other side to say, is this right? Is this different from what Jammeh was doing? When he was ordering projects in Kanilai, he was ordering projects in everywhere. He was taking over, resources. Is this any different? I will leave you with that. Reach out to your National Assembly members and challenge them. If you need to occupy the National Assembly, occupy the National Assembly. It is time the National Assembly build a bone. It is time they represent the interest of the people. It is time the police, every institution must act independently. The police can investigate. The police can order an investigation of this, and if they found any corruption or any illegality, they have the right to prosecute. And the judges have the right to hold those prosecutions responsible. This is about our nation. This is about our nation. I see Uncle Sidi is saying that the tender board was abolished last year. I wonder why. I wonder why it was abolished. But I challenge each and every one of you, each and every one of us, to take these things responsibly. If you are working in the State House and you see anything like this, we challenge you to bring it out. We challenge you to bring it out. It's not for me. It's not for anybody else. It's for you. And it's your responsibility. As a generation, we have a responsibility to make sure that our public officials are held to account. We're feeding them, we're protecting them. This is beyond politics, it's beyond partisan issue. You didn't hear me a single time mention a political party. It's not about that. Who cares? Who cares about which party? What we care about is our citizens who can represent us. And I challenge all of you to take up this responsibility, to make sure that the government is held account. Our team on the ground is going to investigate, and we're going to hunt out the managing director, and we're going to have to interview him. And I challenge the media to do its work as well. I challenge all our institutions. I challenge our citizens and our young people. This is why you couldn't get jobs. That's why you couldn't get jobs. Because they always funnel the money towards their own political interests or their own positions. That's what they did for Jammeh. They killed for Jammeh to keep their positions. They looted for him. They looked the other way. When our women were being raped, our citizens were killed, their heads were being chopped off. And they still look the other way. I don't even want to get into the religious part of it. Because I believe we have the moral bankruptcy in that country. We have moral bankruptcy in that country. We have political incompetence. We have unpatriotism in that country. We have a lot of work to do, Gambia. I appreciate you tuning in. I will come back here again, but I want us to take up this position. This is the beginning. This issue is bigger than anything, but this is where it starts. This is where it starts, and it's going to get a lot more worse if we don't speak up. Thank you very much again. And if you were just tuning in, I was just speaking on a letter that was leaked to the media about, the Gambia Ports Authority authorizing the Trust Bank to transfer $745,000 to build a police station at Mankamankunda, President Barrow's village. Build a police station at Mankamankunda. Was that different? Is that different from anything Jammeh was doing in Kanilai? It's just incredible. I appreciate you listening in. Thank you very much again. May God bless you. And may God bless the Gambia. Thank you. Bye-bye.